This man has been making over $10,000 a day for decades, but his life was worse than a hobo's. He used an old toothbrush as a comb, and his makeup mirror was made from 800 used nail clippers. What's even stranger, he hangs a lot of mineral water bottles in the air and put holes in the bottom of the bottles. He enjoys the shower with great luxury. After rinsing off, the man began his daily morning exercise, but the place where he practiced in the morning was not a park. It was a narrow, dirty stairwell. After his morning exercise, the man knelt down in front of his red school bag and prayed. His expression was solemn. He dared not show any disrespect. The bag is refreshed every day, and if one day it doesn't, the man was close to death. After the prayer, he put the drinks in the bag and put them on the wall. Then he pulled out a bunch of dollars and put it on the pile of bills in the corner. Though the man had been trapped here for 35 years, but his mind didn't explode. By exercising day after day, he turned himself into a strong man. In contrast, the image of the old man upstairs is the opposite of him. The old man has long given up hope. Every day is just a blur. He just eats, drinks and sleeps. He doesn't even bother to clean up after himself. The hallway is almost full of garbage. Due to the lack of exercise for a long time, the old man's lower limbs can no longer stand upright. But even living in such a disgusting environment, he didn't care a bit. Anyway, there's new food in the hallway every day, no matter how much it's wasted. It can't be consumed. From the outside, no one would believe that an old man and a man are the same age, and no one would believe he was once a distinguished policeman. But the man and him have a life and death grudge. 35 years ago, the man and his brother lived by stealing. One day, the brother stole a good thing. When he got home, he didn't even have time to celebrate. Then the police came in. He was about to be arrested. The brother pushed open the refrigerator and fought back. The two of them beat up the police. In a panic, they fled to a hallway, but within a few steps, the police came after them with guns. With a burst of gunfire, the brother fell to the ground. At that moment, suddenly there was an explosion from upstairs. The police were horrified. It's not a good place to stay. He had to take the two brothers away. But then something strange happened. The three of them went up the stairs to the first floor, but they found the door unlocked. The police tried their best but couldn't open it. Several people looked down, but found a numbing scene, only to see the bottom of the floor below the bottom of the floor. Looking up, they couldn't see the top of the building either. Police officers do not believe it. Ordered the two thieves to stand still. He went down from the 9th floor to look for a way out. On the 8th floor, the door was still locked. He tried to push it. It was like the door was welded to the wall. There was no movement at all. The policeman had a bad feeling. He hurriedly accelerated his pace. He ran towards the lower floors, but all the doors were closed. No matter how he tapped and shouted, there was no response from the other side of the door. It was as if the tenants had evaporated. The whole building was terribly quiet. The policeman was completely panicked, gasping for breath in terror. They stumbled to the first floor, desperately kicked the door with his feet. He wanted to leave this weird building as soon as possible, but even weirder was yet to come. In a panic, the policeman instinctively continued to run down. He didn't notice anything unusual about the building number above him until he saw the same two brothers. Then he realized he was back on the 9th floor. Strange things happened one after another. The cop guessed he might be trapped in a circular space. He took out a key and threw it down a crack in the stairs, but it didn't take long. The key fell from the top. This is the end of the story. In this endless staircase, I don't know how long he'll be trapped. With just the food from the vending machine, I'm afraid it's hard to survive for a week. Seeing that his brother is losing blood and is unconscious, the man began to search for medical supplies, but he found nothing. In desperation, he held his head and fell into a deep sleep. When he woke up again, he found that his brother had passed away. While the man was grieving, the policeman behind him noticed something unusual. He picked up the food from the vending machine. The bread that had been eaten before reappeared. Even the barcode was the same. This completely shattered his psychological defense. Even the food in this hellhole is endless. It seems that he really can't get out. After 35 years of trials and tribulations, the policeman has turned into an old man with a crippled body. He only eats and sleeps every day. The thief, on the other hand, had a more refined life. Perhaps his dead brother inspired his potential. 35 years turned him into a strong man. After years of living together, the hatred between them gradually faded. After all, in this strange enclosed building, they could only rely on each other. Only on the anniversary of his brother's death, the man would carry the old man to his brother's corpse to repent. It seemed that they could live together for the rest of their lives. But that day, something unexpected happened. The old man suddenly clutched his head and cried out in pain. The man rushed to his side. He looked at him anxiously. The old man seemed to be in great pain. He kept mumbling some vague words. The man was just about to find out what was going on, but the old man died. After the old man died, the man became restless. He didn't know how he was going to get through this alone. He ran around the building, trying to distract himself, but it didn't work. After a few days, the man's mind was failing him. The depressing environment of the building made the lonely man cranky. The well-kept hallway, he made a mess of it. In order to get rid of it early, the man took out his pistol from 35 years ago. He cried out in pain and stuck the barrel in his mouth. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't pull the trigger. After all these years, the gun had become a piece of junk. Finally, the man realized in despair that he would never escape the cycle of the building. At the same time, on the other side of the street, the same cycle was happening. The man was taking his family out for a drive. While passing by a gas station to take a break, the thirsty daughter wanted a drink of water. water. The man handed her a glass of juice. Because of this small gesture, ended up causing a big accident. On the road, the daughter's face turned pale. The mother turned her head and looked. Her heart was filled with anxiety because her daughter was born with asthma. Any allergic reaction, she could have suffocated. She immediately asked her father to stop the car. She searched her backpack for emergency medication. In the midst of all the chaos, her father accidentally broke the spray he was carrying. The mother searched all the backpacks, but she couldn't find the medication. This is the end of the story. The couple had to turn around and go home to get the medicine. On the way, they kept arguing. They didn't realize the sign was out of place. The boy seemed to sense something. He wanted to warn them, seeing his mom and dad arguing heatedly, but he kept his words to himself. 2 hours later, the car was still traveling on the straight road. As a 30-year veteran driver, father sensed something was wrong. Mother always suspected that he was going the wrong way. She accused him of being unreliable. While the two of them were yammering on and on, the car drove back to the gas station. The couple panicked. They changed directions and fled. It was already 7 in the afternoon, but it was still daylight outside the car. They didn't have time to care about the weather. They just wanted to go home and save their daughter. But it wasn't long before the car passed the billboard again. The mother was so anxious. She could no longer trust her father's judgment, so she took her dying daughter out of the car. She put her daughter on the ground and refused to leave. The mother's repeated suspicions. The father was furious. He rushed out into the wilderness to find out if he had taken the wrong road. Unexpectedly, the father left and never came back. By now, his daughter was in shock. Anxious mother could not wait any longer. She decided to give up her husband and drive away. But just a few hundred meters, the boy cried and said, "My sister's pulse has disappeared. We have to stop and save her." Hearing this, the mother's already fragile nerves completely collapsed. Instead of stopping, she slapped herself furiously, thinking she could wake up from her nightmare. The mother's crazy behavior disappointed the boy completely. He pushed open the car door. He picked up his sister's cold body. Without looking back, he walked in the opposite direction. Sadly, the mother didn't stop the boy from leaving. She was adamant that it was all just a hallucination. As soon as she woke up again, her son and daughter would return to her. The boy, on the other hand, he saw his father, who had left from the west, had come back from the east. The two were in complete despair. Time flies. 35 years passed. My father lived on junk food from the gas station. The father had become a fat man, but the boy didn't go with the flow. He climbed mountains and exercised every day. He never ate junk food. Instead, he lived off of nature's bounty. One day, his mother died suddenly. The boy and his father buried her in secret, and that's when it happened. The father suddenly suffered from a severe headache. He kept mumbling some vague words. Before the boy knew what was happening, the father died. 35 years ago, when he was 10 years old, he had already experienced this kind of space cycle. Father and his companions were rowing together. Because the boatman made a small mistake, caused his companion to drown. He and the boatman drifted on the water for 35 years. When the boatman was dying, he remembered the last 35 years. He was trapped on a train. The boatman had warned his father not to get on the red car. Apparently, he didn't listen. He was stuck on the highway for 35 years. The same father who told the boy, "Don't get into a police car, or he'd be stuck in the next cycle." And sure enough, a few days later, a police car appeared on the highway. The boy seemed to have forgotten his father's advice. The moment he opened the door, he was completely amnesiac. The boy began to follow the instructions in the book. He cut his hair and shaved his beard, transformed into a police officer. At this time he received a mission. He was going to arrest 2 thieves, the 2 characters in the movie. In fact, they are a true reflection of life. In the face of mistakes, young people can quickly adjust, while middle-aged and old people find it hard to get out of the dilemma. As they grow older, they have long forgotten the people and things that were once worth fighting for.